So I've been reading books for a very long time now. Gonna be like 15 years. So I've been reading books for a very long time. And not all these books have been equal in their impact on my life. And so I'm going to pick out some of the books that I recommend you read, the books that will give you the most value for your time, that have basically made big changes in my life. So the first one I actually recently talked about in this video, the last 5 books I read. This book was very impactful for me because it actually made me some money. Unironically, this book made me money. Now, the first thing you're going to have to do is open up a brokerage account in order to actually use the advice in this book. It's really washed out. It's Warren Buffett's the interpretation of financial statements. The idea behind this book is they take an approach to interpreting financial statements that is similar to Warren Buffett's approach, if not outright the same. And I took some of those ideas and I actually made money. Now, I'm going to be honest, I made money and I lost money. So I made a lot of money by, I looked at companies in the Warsaw Stock Exchange, and one of the companies I bought a lot of companies, but one of the companies I bought was Congror Holding, and it's a steel holdings group, and they're up 118%. Now, the reason why I bought them is because they fit a lot of the ratios that Buffett suggested. They're probably up 118%, likely due to the results of the war in Ukraine, okay? That's probably why they're super up, but the financials of the company are really healthy compared to other steel companies, globally speaking. Another company I bought is called 10 Square Games. It's a mobile company game, and the financials of the company are actually super healthy, but it's down 43%. So I made money and I lost money following this advice. There are other companies I bought, but they're more mainstream companies like American Express or Texas Instruments or something like this, right? So you can make money and lose money following the advice in this book. I think 10 Square Games will go up, but we'll see. So that book had a really meaningful impact on the way I bought stocks. Another book I bought was The New Case for Gold by James Rickards. It's Rickards, actually. And he's basically like a financial conspiracy theorist in the sense that he goes a lot of the mainstream dogma in finance. The reason I made money with this book is because he convinced me to buy a lot more gold than I would have otherwise bought. And as a result, I made money. I mean, gold went up. And some of the arguments he makes in the book are like, for example, there's a shadow standard of gold, that the world governments have been buying up gold for a long, long time, since like the 90s and early 2000s. They've been trying to buy all the new gold that comes into the market. He gave examples of banks in Switzerland, or gold suppliers in Switzerland being backed up like 6 months. And everyone's basically trying to catch up to America. I think America has 8 billion. I don't know, it's 8 something, I forget the unit of measurement, 8 something, Germany has 3 something, I think Russia has 2 something, and then China's trying to catch up to, I think, Russia. I actually think America has too much, that was his opinion, but so basically gold, there's a shadow standard, and as a result it's still going to accrue in value because world governments are hiking up the demand for gold. So yeah, that book made an impact on me. Another one was The Wizard and the Prophet. So the idea behind this book is there are environmentalists who tend to favor biological theories such as ecology and so on and so forth. And then there are scientists who like engineering perspectives when it comes to things like climate change and natural resources. The idea behind the book was to look at when scientists got things right and got things wrong and what they have to say, and look at basically ecologists and when they got things right and when they got things wrong. Although ecologists are also scientists, but the idea is the wizard and the prophet, okay? And there are many cases where the ecologist would say things like, oh, the meiotic potential, which is like the natural biological limit for organisms inside the ecology, has been reached. But then that would not be true. And there's also times where ecologists would say, oh, we're running out of oil reserves, and then a scientist would come along and, oh, look, we found a whole bunch of new reserves, so on and so forth. There are cases where both are wrong and both are right, and this book really helped me realize that it's not like a fixed game. It's not like there are only so many approaches. Both viewpoints can be right. So for example, there are instances where we talk about food supply and how food's getting more scarce, but then I saw a study where we can now grow potatoes in salt water. It's really hard for anybody who can claim they can predict the future about the environment of the planet. This book reminds me that no, they probably can't, okay? We need to be open-minded, we need to be skeptical, and we can't be ideologically against an engineering solution or against an ecological solution. That's what that book really did for me when it came to that one specific issue of environment. Madness Explained. I think this book can be more general in its impact on me. Basically, the way you view people when you read books like Madness Explained, it's not just this book, is It's almost like the Sam Harris free will idea that people don't have free will and so you can't hold them culpable because they were determined to do what they're going to do anyways, and so why would you hold them culpable? Except in this case, it's more like people have issues with their character and their personality, and so you don't really attribute to them a full sense of agency. And I'm not talking about like in the legal sense where like if someone is has a severe impediment, like let's say severe schizophrenia, then maybe we don't hold them culpable if they go and hurt somebody, okay? I'm talking about just in general. If someone has a character disorder, then maybe their behaviors and beliefs and so on and so forth are guided by unconscious features that they aren't aware of, and as a result, they're not really aware of what they're doing to other people. I'm not saying you don't like distance yourself and make sure that you set up healthy, like you don't set up healthy boundaries. Of course you want to set up healthy boundaries, but once you realize that everyone has some degree of personality issues or character issues or so on and so forth, it really changes the way you view people. And it really makes you question like, am I really engaging with a genuine person right now, or is it a character issue? Another great book was The Conquest of Happiness. Now this book is more towards like a self-help book. It's like one of the like original self-help books, although the original self-help book goes back to the Victorian era with a guy named Samuel Smiles. This is a great book because it really gets to the idea that happiness isn't like this unique euphoria that you should be pursuing. It's not this grand state of enjoying yourself and everything is just lovely. Actually, what he says is happiness is boring and monotonous, and you have to do a lot of hard work. Now, there will be times where you're elated and it's really fun. But to himself, it's almost like he's saying you have to be somewhat ascetic in order to actually be happy. Because the idea here is if you don't restrict yourself in some sense, then you can't experience happiness. Where if you're completely unrestricted and hyper-entertained, then you'll never truly be happy because you're always going to be like, you're going to be like in a sense looking for the next best thing, and you need like an innovation to get happiness again, right? If you're always playing like the best video games, then it's really hard to find something that's entertaining for you because you've already been playing the best. Whereas if you play one game from like 1995, the idea would be then if you play a game from the year 2000, you're going to be mind blown, right? But you can't play all the games. You just got to play one of them. That's kind of the idea. Restrict yourself, and as a result, you'll be able to experience happiness. Another great one is Radical Honesty. The reason why I like this book and why it's so impactful is because a lot of people think that the lack of telling a lie is you being honest, but it's not. Being honest is an active process where you actually have to do something to be honest. Simply existing as it is not being honest. And so what that book will tell you to do is actively tell things that you wouldn't otherwise say, not in a rude way. It's not saying be rude with honesty. It's simply saying tell things in an open way, actively. You're actively being honest, rather than just simply not saying things in general, because you censoring yourself, which might be polite, is not you being honest. That's just you censoring yourself. Honesty is an active process, not a passive process. This one, How to Win Friends and Influence People, everybody knows this book. And to be honest, the reason why this book changed my life is because it made me more pro-social. And I think a lot of people suffer from this. Like a lot of people aren't pro-social and they don't realize how important it is to be pro-social. And like the first chapter in that book goes over something really great where it's like, there was a guy who basically shot a bunch of people, and as he was being arrested, said, I was just doing the right thing. I was doing like what's best for people, or his people. And he said that this is a great example of where even if like the person is completely black and white wrong, they won't respond well to critiques being condemned at or complained about. And so what you need to do is you need to be friendly with people. And like the amount of people who don't adopt this still is insane to me. Like there's a lot of people who I will see, they will like outrightly tell other people they're wrong. That book is just really a great book to realize the importance of being friendly to people if you want to get anything done in life. And then the last book is Their Duty to Die. This is actually a famous book in ethics because it's basically about palliative care, like end-of-life care. And if you're taking on too much resources from your family, let's say like your palliative care is costing $100,000 a year and your family only has $400,000 in savings, then there might be a duty for you to die, right? Because the quality of your life is not high anymore and so on and so forth. He's basically attacking this taboo that life is sacred and it shouldn't be ended early, even if it's a net negative to society. What he's saying, if your life is a net negative to society and your quality of life isn't that great and so on and so forth, then there might be a duty for you to die. And I never thought about that. Like, you might not agree with that specific case, right? That's a very specific argument. You might not agree with that. But I never thought about that in general, that there might be at some point in my time a duty for me to die, because continuing my life doesn't add a net positive, it's a net negative. In addition to that, it's a drain on resources. And I think there is somewhere in that world, that sphere of utilitarianism, some truth into those kinds of arguments. So those are some books that I recommend to you to read because they were really impactful for me. And with that being said, bye-bye.